Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Major Daniel White. We warmly welcome the family of Private Jeffrey Rex Hobbs, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Jeffrey Hobbs. Jeffrey Rex Hobbs was born on the 8th of March 1922 in Ceduna in the West Coast region of South Australia, one of 9 children of Harold and Elsie Hobbs. Growing up, Jeffrey attended a single teacher school with less than a dozen students in the small settlement of Karabi. After finishing school at the age of 14, he worked on the family farm for a few years. When he was 16, he moved to Berry in South Australia to work on his uncle's orchard. After the outbreak of the Second World War, Hobbs unsuccessfully attempted to enlist while underage. It wasn't until 1941, at the age of 19, that he met with success, joining reinforcements for the 2nd 27th Battalion, which was then serving in the Middle East. At the beginning of November 1941, Hobbs embarked for overseas service, arriving in the Middle East in late November. After a period of training, he joined his battalion on the 19th of January 1942. 10 days later, the battalion returned to Australia in response to the threat posed by Japan's entry into the war and rapid advance through Southeast Asia. In March 1942, the battalion disembarked at Adelaide and Hobbs was given a period of home leave, which he used to visit his family in South Australia. After rejoining his battalion, he spent a further period of training before leaving Brisbane, bound for Port Moresby. Arriving in Port Moresby in mid-August 1942, the 2nd 27th Battalion moved up the Kokoda Trail, where it found and fought Mission Ridge in September. From November, the battalion took part in the Allied attack on the Japanese beachheads in northern Papua. The battalion encountered a string of well-defended bunkers, expertly camouflaged in the lush tropical vegetation, and enemy troops armed with machine guns and mortars. Allied aircraft and artillery bombed and shelled the Japanese positions, but the battalion continued to suffer heavy casualties in attacking them. On the 4th of December 1942, during the fighting at Gonna, Jeffrey Hobbs was killed in action. His body was buried in the British and Commonwealth Cemetery in Port Moresby. He was 20 years old. Jeffrey Hobbs is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Jeffrey Rex Hobbs, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.